Hello, welcome back to another video. My name is Gemma and today we're going to do a wrap up. We're going to do the August wrap up. Yes, I am aware that it is very close to the end of September, but life has been a bit of a thing in September. So small life update. I will chapter it. So if you don't care, that's absolutely fine. Just skip to the good bit. Skip to the book bit. Oh dear. I just need to stop. So a lot of stuff has been happening to me in September. I don't even know where to start. So I guess the first place to start is that, like an idiot, I signed up to run 100k in September for charity. For sick children at Great Ormond Street Hospital. An excellent charity, one that is quite close to my heart, given that my younger son Charlie was born with meningitis and needed to stay in hospital for 3 weeks. And being able to stay with him during that time was just, it made all the difference. So the money that I'm raising goes to help support things like that. So if you want to donate, I will leave the links below. There is a Facebook link and a Just Giving link, because the Facebook fundraising platform is quite frankly a bit shit. So if you can't donate on there, I do have a separate Just Giving page. So I'll leave that below. But yes, the point is that I said I would run 100k in September. You may have seen some of my shorts where I basically just look like a sweaty mess trying to achieve this. And as I film this, it is the 28th and I still have 14k to run in the next 2 days. So we'll see how that goes. So as well as trying to pick up all that I'm running, and just for reference, I had only run 100k between January and August up to that point. So I was trying to fit in like my previous 8 months worth of running into 30 days. So on top of that, work has just been super hectic. There's been a lot of stuff going on that I'm not going to go into here, but it has meant that there's been quite a lot of stress in the team, quite a lot of work. September is starting to get pretty busy for me anyway, because it's when we start the new budget cycle, and spring planning, and just like all the stuff starts to kick off at this time of year, ready for next year. And it's been a time. It's been taking up a lot more time than usual, and even when it hasn't been taking up physical time, it's been taking up brain time, you know. So work's been quite chaotic. And then I went away, which was a nice thing, but I went away to Croatia for 4 days with my mum. So that was 4 days gone from the month. And then I came down with like some sort of weird flu virus. And so I spent literally 24 hours in bed, which, I don't know, I'm sure there are some of you out there who pack your like schedule so jam-packed full that you don't have time to miss like an hour, let alone 24. So to then miss 24 hours, I've got meetings that need to be rescheduled. I had to get my mum to pick up my shopping because I was supposed to do a click and collect that day, and I literally couldn't move off the sofa. And it was just like trying to sort out karate runs for my eldest, and it was just a thing. Like, it was awful. So in amongst all of that, I have been reading, but I have not been doing a very good job of filming, posting content, replying to comments, leaving comments on other people's videos. I did watch a load when I was ill because that was about all I could do, but I didn't have the energy to comment. So if you're thinking, you usually comment on my videos, Gemma, and I haven't, it's probably because I watched them when I was dying on Tuesday. So there you go. So I am hoping to get back into a bit of a flow with my filming and uploading, and get back to my sort of like 2 to 3 a week. But we will just have to see how the work thing goes. So if you don't see me for a week or so, work's just busy. All right, I'll be back. I'll be back. As soon as I get a hot minute, I'll be here. So, with the life waffle out of the way, what did I read in August? August was a good month for me. So in June and July, I was super slumpy. And then in August, I read 19 books. What is that about? I also DNF too. So we're going to talk about them. And I'm obviously not going to talk in huge amounts of detail about 19 books because, you know, we all have lives. But I have done quite a few solo reviews. So where I've done a solo review, I'll sort of let you know where it ranks in the month and then just direct you that way if you want to hear some more information on that particular book. So before I start on the rankings, my one goal that I do check in with you every month on is how many British American authors I've read compared to non-British American authors. So for August, I read 32% of books by British authors, 21% by American authors, and 47% by non-British, non-American. So that's a little bit below my goal of 50%, but not a bad attempt, I feel. But my totals are still like way out. So British, I'm at 29%, American 35%, and other is 36%. So yeah, it's not going great considering we're rapidly approaching the end of the year. What can you do? So we're going to start with the DNFs. So with my books read and my DNFs, there are 21. We'll start, yes, 21. 19 plus 2 should not be difficult maths. It's getting quite late at night, but I'm aware that I haven't like filmed anything in ages, so it's happening. Roll with the chaos. So in 21st position, If I Survive You by Jonathan Escoffery. DNF'd. This was a Booker Prize longlisted and now shortlisted book, I believe. Did this get shortlisted? I think it did. And this is sort of interconnected short stories. I am told I didn't get far enough to figure that out because I didn't even get through the first one. But this is looking at sort of the immigrant experience, black life in America, but it's told through quite a satirical, comical lens. Just not my jam. I just don't like funny. I don't like funny. Not in my books. I like funny people. I like to have a laugh, but in my books I prefer like death, destruction, misery, etc. So that got DNF pretty rapidly. So if you like a good time in your books, then possibly that would be for you. I would suggest checking out other reviews. That's a very Gemma critique, FYI. Then in 20th position we have In Ascension by Martin Macinnes. I mean, these two could be pretty interchangeable really. I didn't get very far into this one either. So this is literary sci-fi, something to do with a marine biologist, apparently, from the blurb, because again I did not get far enough in to care. It was just really dull. It was really dull, and I think because I had read recently Leviathan Wakes by S.A. Corey, which is a super fast-paced, plotty sci-fi. I was just like, why are there no like aliens like killing people? And so that got DNF'd. So yeah, no, not for me. Literary sci-fi, not for me. In at number 19, one that I won't labour on because I have done a solo review, is 19 Claws and a Blackbird by Agustina Baztericca. Baztericca wrote one of my favourite books of all time, Tender as the Flesh, and this is her second book to be translated into English. Short stories. I don't like short stories. Thought Baztericca could change my mind. She didn't. If you want to see the vlog where I basically lose hope throughout that video, I will leave it below. In at number 18. We're at number 18. We have The Elegance of the Hedgehog by Murial Barbery, translated by Alison Anderson from the French. So this wasn't what I was expecting. So this is about a concierge working in an apartment building in Paris, and we sort of flip between her POV and the diary entries of a young girl who lives in the building, and we find out in her first letter that she is going to kill herself. And the story sort of goes from there, and we see how these two very different characters interpret things within this building, and the friendships that they make and the relationships that they form. And it's a bit of a critique, not a critique, an examination on class, society, politics. It's very, very, very philosophical, is what I would say. Parts of it I enjoyed, but it's an ideas book rather than a plot book or really a character book. I mean, there is character in it, but just not really my jam. I was a bit disappointed because a lot of people have raved about this one. So you win some, you lose some, but I read this for my works book club, so there we go. In at 17th position, we have a graphic novel, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, by Jordan Bellaire. So we are now into 3.5 star territory, and this was just fun, nostalgic read. Didn't really have anything super exciting. If you're unaware of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, mate, you're too young to be watching this channel. So yeah, I thought it was it fixed my craving for just easy nostalgia at the time, but it wasn't anything earth-shattering, is what I would say. Then in 16th position, we have The House of Doors by Twan. Again, I have a solo review for this, so I'm not going to go into detail. This was another book, a long-listed book, 3.5 stars. It was fine. In at 15th, you're going to be very excited. Well, you're probably not going to be that excited. I was very excited. I finished The Three Muskateers by Alexandre Dumas, which I started on the 1st of February. Yes, I did. So The Three Musketeers is a pretty famous piece of French literature where we follow D'Artagnan and his 3 musketeer friends as they basically act in very unappealing ways for 600 odd pages. No, there were parts of this that I liked, but it was a satire, and I can only deal with so much satire. We've already talked about this. So for the first probably 25-30% of the book, I was quite into it, and then it just got a bit much for me. And I think I was really expecting good things because I really, really enjoyed The Count of Monte Cristo by Dumas, which I read last year, but for me this didn't even come close to Monte Cristo. So my advice to you would be, if you're going to pick up a Dumas, pick up Monte Cristo. Yes, I know it's the longer of the two, but it's absolutely worth the pages. Can't say the same for The Three Musketeers. In at 14th, we have All the Little Bird Hearts by Viktoria Llyod-Barlow, another Booker Prize long-listed book, and I have done a solo review. I will leave it below. So yes. Oh, and that was 4 stars. We're into 4-star territory now, FYI. Then we have another graphic novel, Anya's Ghost by Vera Brosgol. And this was quite fun, about a young girl who falls down a well, meets a ghost, and then thinks this ghost is like the best thing since sliced bread because it helps her cheat on her homework and stuff, but perhaps not. And it was just quite fun, and yeah, I quite enjoyed it. Interesting concept, and yeah, if you're looking for a fun graphic novel, I would recommend. Then in 12th position, we have The Dark is Rising by Susan Cooper. This is the second in the Dark is Rising sequence, and I read this with the lovely Alice at Alice and the Giant Bookshelf, and Jack at Spread Bookjoy. We're reading the whole series together. This one I felt was a little bit difficult to follow in places, which is interesting because it's a sort of middle grade to YA fantasy book, but a lot of the world building I found quite complex, or sort of like it didn't quite all gel together nicely, so I couldn't quite work out what was happening, but I did like the sort of main quest narrative, and I did like the main character, and there were some super spooky scenes. What Susan Cooper does very well is creates atmosphere And so I'm really intrigued to see how I get on with the rest of the series, because I do feel like potentially this is going to be the weakest one out of the lot. I still gave it 4 stars, but I do feel like it's probably her weakest one, having not read the last 2. Anyway, moving on to 11th position, and we have Pearl by Sian Hughes. Another Booker Prize long-listed book. That's getting harder to say as we go on. Also done a solo review for this. I will leave it linked below. In at number 10, another graphic novel, and we have The Midwinter Witch by Molly Knox Ostertag. This is the final book in the Witch Boy trilogy, which is just a really super cute graphic novel series about a young boy who doesn't want to be a werewolf, he wants to be a witch, but that's not accepted in his culture. And I can't really tell you too much more about the third book, because like it's a trilogy, right? So if I tell you what happens in the third bit, then anyway, I feel like I don't need to go in that detail, but really enjoyed it. Again, if you're looking for cute graphic novels, this one is really good. I really enjoyed it. So yeah, sad that's the end of that. In 9th position, we have Summerwater by Sarah Moss. I have been meaning to get to this book for a long time, and Sarah Moss in general, because loads of people talk about her. So I finally got to it and I really enjoyed it. So in this, it takes place over the course of one day, and we're following a load of different people who are staying in a like a holiday village in Scotland, and it's peeing it down with rain, and we're following these different characters as it all comes to like this climax event. But it is a character driven book. It's not really about the plot or the event, it's about the characters and where they are in their lives that sort of drive this key event. And I just really enjoyed it. It's super short, so it really packs a punch, you know? So I would highly recommend Summerwater if you're just looking for a quick, impactful, good quality read, you know? Then in 8th position, we have Oversea Under Stone by Susan Cooper, which I also read with Alison Jack. And this is the first in the Dark is Rising sequence. So you can see it's ranked quite a bit higher than the second book. This one was brilliant, full of nostalgic feels. If you like C.S. Lewis, if you like Enid Blyton, if you like Philip Pullman, I would say that you will get so much nostalgia from this book. Following 3 children as they go on holiday to Cornwall and meet their rather elusive uncle and end up being thrown into this magical quest of sort of like good versus evil. And yeah, it's just really lovely, really great characters, really great setting, really great quest narrative. And this one, unlike The Dark is Rising, is a very linear narrative and linear plot, which I think just worked really super well. So yes, really enjoyed that one. So in a 7th position, we have A Kind of Spark by Elle McNichol. This is an Own Voices children's book about a neurodivergent girl living in Scotland, and she decides to try and create a memorial to the witches that have died in her town. And it's just about her relationships with other people and how she goes about like a big project when it's very out of her wheelhouse. It's just really eye-opening on what it's like to be neurodivergent as a child, and the things that help and don't help that situation, and also looking at the fact that actually sometimes people who are in positions of power are not taking the time to really support children who need just tweaks in the way that they are communicated with and managed, particularly in a school setting. And I just thought it was really, really beautiful. The main character was fabulous, and yeah, it just hit on lots of important topics that children, I think, need to be aware of. And yeah, beautifully written. I will definitely be reading some more Elle McNichol. In 6th position, we have Galatea by Madeline Miller. So this is a short story by Madeline Miller about a woman who was a statue and her husband brought her to life, And that's all I'm going to tell you about the plot, because it's super, super short, but I really, really enjoyed it. It was so well done for such a short story, and I don't know whether it is based on a myth or not, but it very much felt like it was within that sort of like ancient Rome, ancient Greek backdrop, though you don't ever get enough detail to really know that. And yeah, it was just super well done. It was quite sad in a way, and I would recommend. Next up, we have I Who Have Never Known Men by Jacqueline Hartman. This was translated from the French by Ross Schwartz, and Jacqueline Hartman is a Belgian author. So this is featuring quite highly on my list, and that's because it has stayed with me. It's really quite thought-provoking. As you can see, it's quite a small book. I read this with Alice from Alice and the Giant Bookshelf and the lovely Jess from Stalking Kafka, and we had some great discussions on this, considering not that much happens in this book. This is post-apocalyptic, about a group of women, 20 women, who are in a bunker underground, being guarded by a couple of men, and they don't know why they're there. The main character doesn't remember life before the bunker, but everybody else does, and it's about what happens from there. I'm not going to tell you any more, because I think the less you know, the better. But this definitely threw up a lot of questions and explored community, feminism, family, euthanasia, institutionalism, just a whole lot of things that you could pick out of this. This would be a fantastic book to study, I think, and I don't know whether it is studied in some countries, but yeah, this definitely would have been preferable to some books on my reading list when I was at school. Shakespeare, I'm looking at you. So yeah, I think this is definitely worth a read. I know that not everyone that that I read this with had as much of a positive experience, but I just think it was just a real thinky book. That wasn't quite what I was expecting going in, and had I gone into this when I was really slumpy, I think I would have disliked it. So you have to kind of be in the mood to sort of like ponder it, if you know what I mean. But yes, enjoyed. Then we move on to my only 4.5 star of the month, and that was A Spell of Good Things by Ayobami Adebayo. Again, I have a solo review, I will leave it below, but I really like this. Of the books that I've read, it's by far and away the best that I read, so would recommend, especially if you're into Nigerian fiction. Read it. And then I have 3 5 stars from August. Have to keep remembering that I'm still in August. So in third position we have The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller, and this was the FOMO book club pick for July and August. So if you're unfamiliar, I run the FOMO book club with my lovely friends Alice and Jack. Alice from Alice and the Giant Bookshelf and Jack from Spread Book Joy, and we pick one book for every 2 months and then we discuss it on a live. There is also a Discord and a Goodreads group, so I will leave the links to all of that below for you if you're interested in joining. I will also leave the link to the announcement of the next 12 months picks, which came out relatively recently. That was quite the tangent, but the point is I really love this book. This is a retelling of the Iliad from the perspective of Patroclus, and I love a retelling with a twist, something that's different, and having Patroclus's viewpoint, it was definitely different, and Madeline Miller took it in a very different direction to the Iliad. So I think most people know what I'm talking about, but if you don't, I'm not going to spoil it. But I thought there were some beautiful elements to this. I really, really loved the whole section before they got to Troy. So probably the first half of the book is before they go to Troy, when Patroclus and Achilles meet and how their relationship forms, and then after that is the Battle of Troy. Well, or some of the war at Troy, not the actual final battle. So yes, really, really enjoyed it. If you like Greek myth, definitely give it a go. If you know nothing about Greek myth, this is you don't need to know anything about Greek myth to go into this, but it is interesting to compare if you know. In second position, we have The Mountains Sing by Nguyen Phan Ki Mei. This was devastating, this book, but also really stunning. This is a multi-generational saga looking at primarily a grandmother and her granddaughter after the Vietnamese War. And what we get is the grandmother recounting her story to the granddaughter. So you've got multiple generations of this family, and you sort of see the trauma that Vietnam has been through, not just the Vietnamese War, but Japanese occupation, French occupation, what it is like to grow up in a communist government, and as you can imagine, all of those things mean that there's some pretty hard reading in here, but the relationship particularly between the grandmother and the granddaughter in this is so stunning, and you sort of see how the love of a family can help to heal wounds, deep-seated generational trauma. And yeah, I just thought that was stunningly written, and it really educated me as to a lot of history in Vietnam that I was not aware of. It did make me go away and have a look at sort of why America even got involved in the Vietnamese War in the first place. But I would say if you are interested in Vietnamese culture in any way, this will teach you a lot. If you are interested in stories of family and love and reconciliation, this is for you. If you are not looking for anything sad, then probably don't give this a go, because there are some really, really sad bits in here, but I absolutely adored it. Highly recommend. And yeah, I hope that Ki Mei comes out with more books, because this was absolutely stunning, and it was based, I believe, on her own family's history. So yeah, beautiful book. And then in first position, a book that again I'm not going to talk too much about because I've done a solo review, and that is The Book of Night Women by Marlon James, which I read with the lovely Jolene at Bookworm Adventure Girl. This book took me by surprise. Obviously, I don't pick any book up thinking I'll dislike it, but I never pick a book up and think it's going to blow me away to the level that this book did. So if you want to see my full spoiler-free thoughts, I will leave the review for that below. But honestly, it was incredible, and I don't know why more people don't talk about it, or maybe they did, like back when it was released, because it has been released for a while. But it was so good. Historical fiction based in slavery era Jamaica, and man, it ticked all of my boxes. So yes, really loved it. It has now topped Demon Copperhead in my best books of the year. So yes, read it now. And that is it. That is 21 books as quickly as I could possibly get through them. I do apologise. I will try to get back to a more calm, chilled way of communicating my wrap-ups next month, but we'll see how it goes. If I'm only getting time at 8-9 o'clock at night to film, this might be what it is for a little while, so I apologise. I would love to know what great books you've been reading recently. Doesn't have to be in August, because let's be honest, had I not written them down, I would not have remembered what I read in August. But yeah, just tell me some great books you've been reading. I will leave my Book of Night Women review here if you missed it, and I will catch you very soon with another one. Bye guys.